Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order this Committee of the Whole meeting of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores and welcome everybody to the Council Chambers this evening. The second item is disclosure of pecuniary interest and nature thereof, and I'll ask any member if they have a pecuniary interest they'd like to declare. Seeing none, of course, you can declare one any time if you need to. We have no additions, deletions, or amendments, so that moves us on to open forum. There are 5 open forum requests this evening, and I'll just remind everybody that those are 3 minutes in length. Open forum runs 15 minutes, so if everybody sticks to their 3 minutes bang on, we'll get all 5 of these in. So please do that. So without further ado, then, I'll call the first one, which is Holly and Frank Vanderswet, and they're here on the topic of the YMCA. Just make sure to...
Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Saugeen Shores Council. As many of you know, my husband Frank and I are the owners-operators of Fitness Corner in Port Elgin and Fitness Corner South in Southampton. We've been at the Port Elgin location for 23 years and in Southampton for 14. I'm writing with some thoughts, ideas, questions, and concerns about the possibility of a YMCA coming to our community. I hear often when attending business track sessions at the annual CanFit Pro Fitness Conference that opening a fitness facility in a town of 10,000 or less is a high-risk venture. Saugeen Shores has been fortunate to have 3 fully equipped fitness facilities that have been operating successfully. We've risen to the challenge over the years to keep up with trends and addition of other competing fitness businesses in the community, and we've continued to succeed. However, the Y, Young Men's Christian Association, being a not-for-profit organization and therefore paying no taxes to the community, but housing some of the very same amenities that we offer, is unfair competition for us. The municipality will be responsible for the cost of the building, for building this Y. Therefore, my personal and business taxes will be paying for my competition. Is that fair? If the Y goes into deficit, the municipality will bail them out. Where is the risk for the Y? The Y will also have no mortgage to be accountable for, which is something we still have. As I understand it, the Memorandum of Understanding between the Y and Saugeen Shores even guarantees the town will cover their shortfalls. Between our facilities and Lakeshore Recreation Facility and the current swimming pool, I'm certain we do not have anywhere near 5,000 members, and I'm quite sure it's closer to about 3,000. We intend to keep as many of our members as possible while adding more. We're not at capacity, so if the Y does not get the 5,000 members, which the business plan requires, then how much is the town on the hook for? What if they only get 4,000 or maybe 3,000? How much will the shortfall be? Likewise, if the town does not get the full grant amount as suggested in the Y business plan, how will the town cover the difference? It's very disappointing that these questions were not even asked at the last meeting. If the Y chooses to close due to lack of funds, as in the case of the 5-year-old Y in Kingston, is the municipality left financially supporting an empty facility? Where's the risk for the Y? We're not opposed to a new pool or to an indoor track, not to basketball courts, but we, however, encourage the council to explore options other than partnering with a Y. Would a consideration be made to partner with the existing fitness businesses for the amenities that we do have? We're more than willing to meet with any or all council members to discuss the options.
That's 3 minutes, Ms. Vanderswet.
To date, we've never been approached, and as I understand, neither has Lakeshore. Thank you.
Thank you. So our next open forum is Anne McKay, and she's also here about the YMCA. Ms. McKay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Anne McKay, and Gordon and I are the owners of Lakeshore Recreation Centre in Port Elgin. First, Gordon and I are 100% behind a pool, as are the majority of people in our town. We've studied it for far too long. It's the recreational facility that I have a problem with. For 37 years, Lakeshore has been the recreational hub of Saugeen Shores, where we have been providing year-round recreational facilities for families and visitors. The town staff often allude to us needing a recreational hub, and I take it as a personal insult when this is said, as we have been here and we are still here. Did you know that Lakeshore has offered to partner with the town over the past few years? We met with Mike Myatt when he was the rec director and Jane at the time. We've met with the mayor and the CAO. The town has never been interested in pursuing a partnership with us. It was always the YMCA the staff wanted. Was council updated of a meeting that the mayor and the CAO had with Gordon and I on September 13th and then again on September 30th, where we offered to partner with the town in building the pool, as well as 3 other possible arrangements. Again, no interest in partnering with local business was looked at. I wonder if residents and council are aware that the YMCA does not pay taxes and that town is on the hook for any shortcomings in the ongoing revenue. Are you aware that there are currently 9 private fitness businesses operating in Saugeen Shores? In Owen Sound, when the Y opened, the 2 largest fitness centers in their city went out of business as they couldn't compete against their own municipality, the Stone Tree and the Women's Health Centre. Have there been any discussions by council on the impact to these 9 businesses and their employees and whether the town really should compete with its own businesses? When the YMCA daycare came to town, again, private business could not compete, and Huggaday and Paddington Station had to go out of business. Are you aware that 2 Ontario YMCAs are closing in 2019 due to financial difficulties? The one in Kingston was built in 2014 and is now closing this year, and the other being in Fort Erie. Gordon and I asked for clarification on both September 13th and 30 on development charges as we're looking at an expansion at Lakeshore. To date, nobody from the town has got back to us. The proposed location between the Plex and Lakeshore poses a problem. Parking is already an issue at busy events, such as a winter hockey game, where half the attendees come and park in our lot. That's okay, because when we have a large event, we sometimes spill into yours. But on an ongoing basis, if you had a second ice surface and a Y, do you really think people are going to walk from the BMX track all the way around? In summary, it's difficult to be a small business operator in Saugeen Shores, especially where our main competitor is our own municipality. We were told years ago that the Plex would never compete with existing banquet facilities, such as Lakeshore and the golf courses. Yet weddings and parties are now common. The town also rents or loans the hall for fitness classes,
3 minutes, Ms. McKay.
which are again offered through private business. The museum is now a party, wedding, and funeral business. Fair competition is good, and that's why we have 9 facilities in Port Elgin. Small businesses in our town need your support now, and our town really needs small businesses. Don't compete against our Main Street businesses with flea markets and farmers markets. Closing the streets and not allowing people to access our Main Street is not good. Our town is going in a direction that makes me very uncomfortable, both uptown and at the beach. Please be responsible, because what you do now has a huge impact on the people that are here now and well into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. That moves us on then to Peggy Corrigan-Dench, who's here to speak about the tourism study.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for this brief opportunity to speak. Thank you to the Ontario Government, Miller Murray, and Grace Simcoe Bruce for their support and development of tonight's report on tourism. I like tourists coming to our area. I used to be one. As you read and listen to tonight's report on tourism and the strategy recommendations, please may I draw your attention to the community survey. On page 6, the number 1 reason that 81% of respondents come to this area is for the beach and the water. Tourists equal beachgoers. On the same page, under threats to tourism, the number 1 reason, 29%, said too crowded or too busy. On page 7, in the community survey, they talk about sustainable tourism as the number 1 priority. Can there be too much of a good thing? Too many visitors can tip the balance. Too much development can do the same. I invite you all to read the Coastal Action Plan from the Lake Huron Centre for Coastal Conservation, and also see their videos on YouTube. Their mission statement, the challenge is not one of how to prevent human-induced change, but rather one of deciding how much change will be allowed to occur, where and when the actions are needed to control it. For a moment, I'd like to focus on visiting friends and relatives, or VFR, as they're referenced here tonight in the report on tourism, using our family as a case study. In the first generation, our family began coming here in the 50s, 60s, and 70s and rented cottages, mostly on Izard Road. In 1980, my parents purchased a cottage on Lower Mill Street. My aunt and uncle purchased a cottage on Izard. No matter where we lived, Toronto, Burlington, Woodstock, Guelph, we came to Port Elgin as our summer home. The second generation, there are 5 of us now, 5, live in Saugeen Shores full-time. We are happily retired, property owners, and we spread from Gobles Grove into Southampton. 3 siblings, 2 cousins. We chose Saugeen Shores as our community. The third generation, 16 visitors and their partners and families. One is a seasonal property owner. Others rent or camp. We just can't fit them all in. The fourth generation, 19 little visitors and counting. We all play, swim, paddle, and visit the beach and the water like our parents did. Countless other friends and relatives now come to the area because our family did. They come for the beach and the water, like people have been doing since the town was incorporated. I have a postcard from 1938. I brought it along tonight.
That's 3
I'd be
minutes,
happy
Ms.
to
Dench.
share it with you. When making your decisions regarding tourism and the waterfront, please inform yourselves. Tonight's valuable tourism strategy, the Coastal Action Plan by the Lake Huron Centre for Coastal Conservation, the Waterfront Master Plan that was completed in 2014, the overall town planning document, and public feedback. We have a great and growing community made up of a lot of people who come here for work, leisure. We're excited about Lamont Park, but for us, the crown jewel is the waterfront. Don't allow it to be commercialized. Thank you.
Thank you. That moves us on to number 4, Steve Rowland, who is also here to talk about the tourism study.
Talking about the mayor and councillors, talking about the Mellor-Murray report. I read the report, I looked at the PowerPoint presentation, and I must admit the most I got out of it was where Muskegon was. And it's not a place I'm going to go for a conference anytime soon. I would like to focus on one topic area in this report, and that would be the conference center. Page 21, page 35 to 36, and one slide, slide 17, one little PowerPoint bullet, all about this conference center. On page 21, it mentions the meeting in the conference center is required, and it would be nice to have a nice view of the lake, and I hope that doesn't mean the main beach in Port Elgin. There's a statement right in there about promoting violating local bylaws to support these facilities, and I'm assuming that's hours of operation, liquor, and noise bylaws, so we shouldn't be even thinking of going down that path. Page 35 and 36 lists the inventory of facilities in the area, and it's not complete. Figure 21. Not all facilities in the area are listed, and I think that some of these facilities would be a little upset they're not listed on there. The only facility in the area is Uniform, the CAW camp. So other facilities in the area should give the opportunity to upgrade to meet the requirements of having a conference hall, meeting hall centers to the standards that we're talking about in this report. Also, specifically, all the facilities in Kincardine, which is in the 100-kilometer area of this survey that they were talking about, not one facility in Kincardine is listed. And I'm not putting a plug in for the town suites, but the town suites is a 300-person banquet hall, 3 breakout rooms, and a 5,000 square foot space, not even listed in that report at all. In the end, no 300-person conference banquet hall should be on the beach at the expense of the primary industry of tourism in the location. It's not acceptable, and it shouldn't be done. Thanks.
Thank you. That moves us on to the last one, David Glass, who's here also about the tourism study.
Good evening. We are longtime residents of Saugeen Shores, year-round for nearly 20 years, and summer for the last 12. We've owned a cottage in Saugeen Township since 1993, which we now use as our summer residence. This dual experience, I think, has given us a shared perspective, a unique perspective, which may differ somewhat from that of year-round residents, in particular those who do not use our most precious asset, the 18 kilometers of beach. We are not anti-development. We are not anti-business. We realize that development Thriving business is all key to a prosperous community. The recently drafted tourism strategy. Sorry, do you need a minute?
Carry on, sir, please.
The recently drafted tourism strategy, which the taxpayers have financed, raises some very important issues, the understanding of which are essential in the development of our municipality's important tourism industry. First and foremost, there is reference to the essential element of public consultation and adherence to the Waterfront Master Plan. Waterfront and beaches are correctly identified as key tourism assets to be scrupulously protected, and any development must not contribute additional traffic or crowding of our limited waterfront resources. The United Nations Sustainable Tourism Principles are outlined in the document. 5 out of the 12, that's 5 out of the 12 key principles, are relevant to the preservation of our beach, environmental purity, resource efficiency and minimization use of scarce and non-renewable resources, physical integrity, which is maintenance of quality landscape and avoidance of physical and visual degradation of the environment, and consultation of stakeholders. This is all pretty familiar to those of us who have read and understand the Waterfront Master Plan. Why are these principles not being adhered to, starting with the proper public consultation? Why are we being presented with a plan that will take up space on a scarce and precious non-renewable resource? Why do my letters, which have been sent twice, remain unacknowledged and unanswered? Yes, the strategy mentions developing a conference centre, yet it states that the waterfront must be protected, and ideally pedestrian access to the downtown. With the proposed beachfront location of such a facility, I cannot envision conventioneers walking from the lakefront to Godrich Street in January, or November, or December, or in March. Remember who it is you serve, whose money you spend, and whose beach this is.
Okay, thank you. That moves us now on to delegations, and we have 3 delegations this evening. And I'll just remind all the delegations that our delegations are 10 minutes in length, and we certainly hope to hold closely to those numbers, although I'm sure that we won't have any difficulties. So the first one is from David Leonce and George Bridge. David is the chair of he's the CEO. This is reversed on here. He's the CEO of West Ontario Power, and George is the chairman of the board and also the mayor of Minto. Welcome.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. It's great to be here tonight, and this is something that West Ontario talked about at their AGM that we wanted to get out and do at least a yearly update as to where you are, as you're a very key partner in West Ontario. Recognize David Smith as your board rep, and David brings a lot to the table with his municipal background and his finance eye to detail, I must say. So here we are tonight, and I'm going to turn it over to David, and he's going to kind of go through a few slides, and then hopefully we'll have some time for questions. But feel free to use this as an opportunity to talk about where our partnership with West Ontario is going in the future. And I do believe it's a partnership. We have all the municipalities are a partner in this, and if we work together, we can really make an amazing thing happen. So turning it over to David. I'll be here to answer any questions as well.
Thanks, Chairman Breach, Mayor Charbonneau, and councillors and staff. I'm excited to be here tonight to just provide you an update on West Ontario and what we're doing at West Ontario. As you know, West Ontario is your community utility, and therefore it's important that we engage with the community and also the municipality, you being a shareholder of West Ontario. I'm going to start for the first slide. Let me see if I can use this here. It's really about our mission statement and our vision statement, and I'm just going to focus on our vision. And our vision is we want our community and our shareholders to recognize that we are really your community-owned utility. Our vision is about providing exceptional value to the shareholder and our customers. We want to make sure that we have state-of-the-art customer service. Customers are satisfied with the service and the product that we provide to them. But reliability is also important to us in terms of vision, making sure that we exceed industry standards around reliability. But we could only do that through the creativity and also the empowerment of our employees. So that's really, in a nutshell, what our vision is. And I've actually identified here some of our core values, which I'm not going to go through here, and what really our mission and how we'll operate our business safely, reliably, efficiently, engaging our customers at the same time respecting the environment in which we operate. A little history on Westerio here. As you know, in 1989, I think, with the new passing of the Energy Act, we saw changes in the industry, quite a bit of change in the industry, and where the small municipal electric utilities were kind of forced to incorporate their business, and we saw the merger of a few municipal electric utilities to form Westerio Power, 8 of them, and also Fortis being another utility to form Westerio Holdings. In 2008, Westerio Holdings and the Westerio Power Services amalgamated and focused on only the regulated side of our business, which is really called Westerio Power right now. Our Westerio Power has really 9 directors, and 8 of our directors are municipalities. And as I indicated, one is an IPO company, publicly traded utility called Fortis Ontario. We've got 2 active committees. One is the Executive Committee and one is the Audit and Risk Committee. Our board of directors are very much experience and industry experience. Some of them come with different backgrounds, from finance to operations to risk, and they provide really good governance for the organization and oversight, and to enabling the management team manage the risk at Westerio Power. Saugeen Shores is really our largest shareholder, as you could see here, almost 25% of Westerio. And we continue to enjoy their representation on our board. And as the Chairman George has indicated, David Smith does represent the municipality on our board and is very instrumental in supporting the work that we do and bringing a skill set to the table. Here's a snapshot of what the returns and the value we've brought to our shareholder and Saugeen Shores. As you realize, over the years, we've tried to provide a sustainable dividend to the shareholder. And as you could see here, this is just a snapshot of 10 years from 2009 to 2018, and you recognize this is really a consistent growth around your returns on your investment. A few facts on Westerio Power. Our customer base is around 23,000 plus. We've continued over the last 2 years to enjoy really great customer satisfaction. 92% of our customers are telling us they're satisfied with the service and the level of service that we provide them. The reliability, we'll show you a slide that shows how they're satisfied with the reliability. We got about 39 employees. In the bottom, you'll see all the asset base. We have over 10,000 poles, about 550 kilometers of wires, both overhead and on the ground. Our substations, 27 substations in our asset base, and really substations form the core of our assets because it is the heart of our network system. Without having reliable substations, then there's always outages. So we've done a very great job in making sure that we invest very prudently in our substations. This is some more stats on our performance in terms of customers' feedback. And as you notice here, our standard of reliability is really good. It exceeds industry standard. 89% of our customers are saying they're satisfied with the reliability. We continue to find areas to improve where we find gaps, especially working with our Hydro One, which is our supplier, and sometimes we have no control over the loss of supply, but from our perspective, our network is pretty reliable. Westerio is really spread out very wide in our service area, almost 80 kilometers north to south and about 60 kilometers east to west. And we do a very good job in trying to make sure that we service all our communities in spite of how widely spread they are. And I think we've done a pretty good job over the years to do so. This is just a snapshot of Southampton, our service area. We don't cover the rural areas of this municipality. We really focus our service boundaries really on the highly dense locations of that community. I'll talk a little bit about the electricity bills and really and truly how we make money. Really, if you notice, this pie chart here shows a home that's consuming 1,000 kilowatt of hours per month. This is really an old bill that was pre the Fair Hydro plan, and a lot has changed since that time. And you notice the biggest piece of the pie chart is the commodity. And really and truly, the 28% is really what we work with. The $28 is what we really stays with the utility so that we could operate our business.
And just to say, that's similar to what you deal with. All the tax dollars don't actually. So similar to, we give out the bill so everybody thinks that we've got all the money. Work with 28 cents, what our share is. Similar to what you have to do in a municipal world with the fact that both federal and provincial government have the rest. So sometimes we have to get that message out to the people because you deliver the tax bill, same idea with us. We deliver the utility bill, but that's basically what we have to work with.
Thanks, Mayor. Here is the electricity bill distribution as I indicated. The 57% is the commodity. That's the pass-through to the independent electricity operator. Westerio portion is really the 24%. Then you have HST and also delivery charges and some of the regulatory charges, which is really pass-through. So out of the 24%, this is how we utilize that 24%. So for every dollar of revenue that we collect from our customers, 50 cents really and truly is reinvested in our distribution system to make sure that we have a very reliable network and very reliable assets, and to ensure that reliability continues to be paramount. And if you notice, some of it is operation and maintenance, 18% of that. We've got the debt repayment, 9%, and dividend is just 3% of that. So where are we going in the future as your community utility? We continue to seek opportunities for growth. We believe that as a utility, we can't remain stagnant. We have to look at the future. We have to look at where we see growth organically, whether it's through our developers, working with the municipality, helping with economic growth, but also look at it from an inorganic point of view too, looking at where other opportunities are out there that we could grow. We see a lot of emerging technologies coming in our space, EV cars, EV charging systems. The question for us as a utility is, do we continue to be a wires and pole utility, or do we continue to look at opportunities within that space? Engaging with our customers, and that includes you, the municipality, and our developers, and those coming to our community for economic development, working with them, making sure that we could provide them a process that helps get shovels into the ground quickly. Reducing our operating costs is also important, looking at areas around continuous improvement, using technology to help us do that in some cases, benchmarking our operations, looking for efficiencies, because that's the only way we'll control the cost of the electricity bills. We don't want our customers to see huge increases over time. If we manage our operating costs, we'll help keep that cost down as much as possible. Also, improve financial performance for our shareholders, and that is by managing our debt and becoming more prudent in our expenditures. And lastly, looking for funding for system upgrades. Reliability will always be there, and as we see emerging technologies coming into our network systems, whether it's solar or EV cars, we become more vulnerable. For us, we need to look at long-term, making sure that we could put systems in place so that our network becomes resilient and also reliable as we see emerging technologies come into the space. And I'm going to close with this contact information. I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm sure you do have some questions, but feel free to reach us on our website. We do have social media also, but if you really want to reach our various departments, you could find all that information on our website. And with that, I want to thank you for that opportunity, and with that, we'll take some questions.
Sure, thanks, David and George. Questions from members of the committee, the Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, David and George, for a good presentation. It's nice to see our dividends increasing from 112,000 to 190,000. That's about a 70% increase, I would take it.
And I just want to make a point on that, where David's last slide talked about the fact that one of the things, just by getting our operation running more smoothly, A lot of those dividend increases for the case of we did a lot of our own construction. Staff did not have time to do it, and that's one of those things that we want to work with.
That was one of the questions I had.
Yeah.
Was how, I mean, that's a nice, I mean, 70% increase in dividends is a nice increase. So congratulations for that, and thank you for that. So how did that happen, I guess, was the question I had. So
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yep.
That's what happened. We did an operational change. Through David's operation, we were able to take maintenance stuff that we usually do, get that done. But in the construction season, we worked really hard with our contractors. The subdivisions.
well
Yeah.
done.
I just want to add to this, and again, we just went through a cost of service application. Rates were increased slightly, but on the other hand, we see a lot of revenue from electricity usage, especially when it's hotter. More people use more electricity. Managing your operating costs is also another aspect of that. But like George was saying, when we see developers come on stream and asking for services, we want to be able to execute the services at a low cost, but also get more customers connected, because all of that helps with driving revenue.
So in that, we have a new VP of Operations, Martin, and actually going out to your talking about where the next ones are going to happen. We'll be prepared.
Very good. Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thank you, David and George, for coming out and explaining your operation. I appreciate that very much. My question was around growth, and you just sort of answered it there. And the principle being, the more customers you have connected, the more revenue you're going to pick up.
That's correct.
And even if those customers are low consumers, they're still going to get the hookup fees and the connection fees. In our municipality, and our mayor likes to remind as many people as he can, we're the fastest growing municipality in our region, but most of that growth is in Hydro One territory. Mm-hmm. It's in actually my territory. I'm the ward councillor for Saugeen Township, former Saugeen Township. Do you see any initiative or any opportunity to expand as our urban boundary rapidly expands, to reclaim some additional territory? And I know Hydro One isn't particularly keen to give up their territory, but through a regulatory appeal process, that could possibly be done.
And I maybe take a bit of it to start, and then David can check on it. One of the things that I was very upset with when Ontario Hydro One was starting to sell off and to have some of the connecting areas, it makes a lot of sense. You saw that map that we would pick up even around our Minto. We had some Hydro One and our industrial parks, but very difficult. Mm-hmm. We have to fight it from a municipal level and go and talk to the government as going forward, and I will be talking to her about that and make sure that we have a presentation about that. But we can work on the individual ones if we know ahead of time what's happening, and the rules, and maybe David can explain the actual rule. There's an actual arbitration rule, which if you can explain that, David, better than me.
Yeah, so to your question, Councillor Mayette, we have limitations as to how much we could expand, because these boundaries were set many years ago, and Hydro One has its territory, we have our territory. Like Mayor George was saying, that could be expanded. That maybe some recommendations could come from the municipal governments in terms of pushing government to look at that. That's one way of doing it. In terms of what we could do from a utility perspective, is we could work with Hydro One and also with the municipality to look at where economic development is, if it's in your area or if it's outside of your area. And if it's pretty close to our area where we've got the lines and poles, we will work with Hydro One to see what's more economically feasible for the customer. Because at the end of the day, it's providing value to the customer. Mm-hmm. So we don't want, if we are right there and it's going to cost Hydro One $1 million, it's only going to cost us $200,000 for Hydro One to bring the service in. That's not good value for a customer. So there is a process we could work for. It's called a service area amendment with the regulator, and we could both provide economic evaluations and say, here's what we think it's going to cost us, and then the regulator will determine whether or not that boundary could be expanded. So we could go through that process, but usually we don't get a lot of these. We get a few of these, and some of these have worked very successfully. Otherwise, Hydro One sometimes would push it if they see that these developments or expansions would grow over the next 5 years. So it's in their best interest, and sometimes they want to make the investment. So we continue to work through that process currently. But what I will encourage the municipality to do is, when economic development comes into your community, if you do have the available lands within your service territory, maybe look at that as a first option before you go on the outside. And that gives us a first kick at it. And that would be maybe something to be considered.
And that's what we're hoping Matt will be doing as he comes out to see, 5 years from now where the new developments are going. Not because we can work on them as forward and try to come up with the best. So we're not caught short.
That's for what you're describing to me is new connections which are, say, across the street. They're putting a new subdivision across the street from your territory.
Yeah.
It makes sense. You've already got the substation. Hydro One would have to put in a whole infrastructure set. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I would certainly encourage that. And I think the residents of Saugeen Shores would encourage that also, because those of us who are connected to Hydro One don't enjoy the same rates.
Yes, I know. I'm in Hydro One.
Even though I participated in your rate review study a couple of years ago, and I congratulate you on your recent successful outcome from that.
Thank you.
Just one more question is, I know that Westario is not a publicly traded company.
No, it's not.
But what would be the fair market value of our 25%?
I would have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is a, as you pointed out, unfortunately, it's not a marketable. We have to sell it amongst ourselves. The way we can actually do it at this point in time. I can just say one thing: your value is a lot more than it was 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gone up quite a bit. So it's there, and going forward, you do have a number, but because it's not publicly traded, that number's sort of it's based basically on your revenues and what you back out.
Yeah, and then there's a number of factors you need to look at it. So if I would say I'll give you a number, and then you'll figure it out. But our total asset, including regulatory, is around $76 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further questions from members of the committee? I just say thank you to you gentlemen for coming in. No, that's all right. That's good. But I appreciate you coming in, and I think it's important just to get an update both for members of the committee as well as for the public about Westario Power. I think it's safe to say that we have tens of millions of dollars of public money invested in this utility. So it's a really critical organization that for us, and it's very important that it be run well. We're very confident in our representation and David on that board, and certainly confident in the leadership at Westario. I would say that Westario has, from my personal perspective, been improving in terms of its performance now for a few years now. I think it's becoming a stronger, more robust and utility that serves the public really well. So we really appreciate you coming in tonight, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
So that moves on to our second delegation, and it's from Enid Johnson, who is a teacher. And Enid is here to talk to us about the GC Houston Festival of Lights. Ms. Johnson? Are they outside? No. Oh. Okay, just one second. Oh, Ms. Johnson. Welcome, guys.
Good evening. Thanks for giving us some time. We wanted to bring the students from GC Houston to talk a little bit about a project that we would like to do, so we're going to let them speak first.
The students and community of GC Houston have come up with a very interesting proposal that we hope the town of Saugeen Shores will support. Thank you for giving us this time to present our idea to you.
Erie Lake has always been considered a jewel in the center of our town. It provides so many different opportunities to the many people that visit it throughout the year. As a community, we have worked very hard to maximize this wonderful area.
In the summer, several families come to listen to the wonderful musical performances. It is always a highlight to the visit to Southampton.
Some people love to come and watch the different wildlife that can be found around the lake. Photographers love to come and take pictures of the area as the seasons change.
Many things have been done over the years to improve Fairy Lake. A retaining wall and pavilion have been built. The new deck is something many members of the community have enjoyed.
It goes without saying the students of GC Houston feel that Fairy Lake is a part of our school playground. We are so lucky to have this space right beside our school, and we take advantage of it whenever we can.
Fairy Lake has much to offer in the summer, fall, and spring. Our next area of focus should be the winter. It is a beautiful location in the winter, but is not easily accessible. There is many things that could be done to make this a year-round destination.
We would like to change that. GC Houston, in partnership with other community members, want to make Fairy Lake a destination in the winter.
Similar to what has been done in Owen Sound, Fairy Lake could become the home for our own Festival of Lights. Their festival brings thousands of visitors to their city every year. This is a huge boost to their economy as well.
We would like to kick off the project on the night of the Southampton Parade. Everybody will be invited to the pavilion to see our first display. This will be donated by GC Houston and one of the local businesses. The GC Houston band will play, and we will be providing hot chocolate and cookies.
Thank you for having us, Mr. Mayor and councilmen and women. I have discussed this privately with some of the council people with our ideas. We do realize there will be some liability issues, maintenance. We decided to come to council before we talked to the Parks Department. I will broach on some of the things as far as liability because of where we want to have it. I guess the biggest thing would be signage around the natural habitat, around the water, safety. We will be asking, hopefully, for electricity usage from the town. There is power at the band shell right now. In the foreseen future, it would be great if we could do solar. As I said, we're on a time period right now. We would love to have an opening ceremony with naming this the night of the Southampton Parade, with also a special dedication ceremony and a ribbon cutting to some community members that love being around Fairy Lake and have been all-time Southampton residents. We have spoken to some residents that do back on to Fairy Lake. They're on board with it. The only negativity would be, I would say, as I said, the liability. And we would work with the town, anything we can, to make sure it is a safe and something that people want to come to our town to visit. It would only be open from the night of the parade probably till the first week of January. In the future, we would like to visit any businesses in town, as they do in Owen Sound. They pay a fee. They sponsor their area. In Owen Sound, they set it up for them every year. But we'd have them come and set it up, and you come and you take it down. We would look after, hopefully, the maintenance of the pathway. And we would like, in the years to come, to light up Fairy Lake.
We have lots of students at GC Houston. If you have any trouble clearing a path around it, we can always get them to get the shovels and get that out. I just think that it's a great opportunity for Fairy Lake. We do so much at that lake, and we don't really maximize it in the winter. We're certainly thinking about starting small. We're not expecting that this is going to be ready to go by Christmas time, but we really like to do the kickoff at the Southampton Parade to generate the interest, and then we can start building the partnerships. We've talked to several different businesses already who have expressed an interest. The museum has definitely expressed an interest in participating with us. As Brenda said, we have talked to some of the people that live around Fairy Lake. They also seem to be interested in it. So I think it's got a really good chance of being really successful and something that will make us really proud. And again, something else that brings people to Southampton other than in the summer just for the beach. Come in the winter and other things can sort of springboard off that. Are there any questions that you have for us?
Sure, we can turn it over to the committee for questions. Just before I do, though, I only have Ms. Johnson's name here, and I'd be really interested if you would introduce, your students could introduce themselves to council.
Come on up, girls.
My name is Scarlett LeBlanc.
What grade are you in, Scarlett?
7.
My name is Tessa Bush, and I'm in grade 8.
My name is Robin Acton, and I'm in grade 7.
Blair, and I'm Blair Elliott, and I'm in grade 8.
Very good. Thank you all for coming in. We appreciate that very much. I'll ask, are there questions or comments from members of the committee? The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Enid and Brenda, fantastic presentation. I know when the staff and students at GC Houston sink their teeth into something, it is a wonderful project. We just have to go back to the bridge naming 2 years ago. I look forward to working with you on this. I know that if you talk to our staff, we'll do what we can to make this work, and I look forward to being there on the Christmas parade to see what we have.
Great, thank you.
Further comments from committee members? The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, thanks for your presentation. I was born and raised in Owen Sound, actually, and I came here in 2001. But I remember clearly back in the day when Festival of Northern Lights started out. I actually served on that committee for a few years, and I started out with one block, very humble beginning, and someone had a dream, and the dream just took off. And so I can see something maybe not as big, but it goes for blocks and blocks and blocks over there. But I can see it starting with 1 or 2 displays and then watch it take off. So I just commend you for what you're trying to do here. I think it's
we have been in touch with Owen Sound too,
right,
because we wanted to get a little feedback about how that went, and they've been extremely supportive and willing to work with us to help us through whatever sort of problems that they may have encountered.
Right.
They've already done that, so we think we really have a heads up there because they've already been through it.
Okay, I'm glad you've told. I could give you a few contacts, but it sounds like you're on
And
your way.
We
But
do plan on forming a committee of more than just myself and
Sure.
Enid to help us out. They did say they do have security in Owen Sound that just kind of walk.
Right.
And they've never had any big vandalism happen.
Right.
The biggest thing they said is people throwing garbage.
Right.
And I think
Right.
these kids look after their schoolyard. I think
Yeah.
they'd look after Fairy Lake for
Well,
us.
congratulations for bringing it forward. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, thanks, ladies and girls, and for coming out and giving us your idea. I think it's a great idea, also. First of all, I'll say it's too bad when you talked about supplying electricity. It's too bad the delegations weren't a little reversed.
Yes.
When we had our West Area friends here, they could have maybe heard that and come up with some ideas for you or some support. But anyway, so what I'm seeing is you want to sort of replicate what we see in Owen Sound, which is essentially a Christmas time thing with cutouts, and I can picture it around the lake, cutouts of different Christmas themed ideas. But you started off by saying you wanted to have a winter destination. Do you have any ideas for January, February, and March. We can.
No, we're
no.
done. Work on that.
It's just for Christmas at this point.
We can work on that, though.
All right.
Well, if it eventually gets to the part where we can have Fairy Lake actually lit up in the winter, I don't mean with displays, but actually lighting all the way around Fairy Lake, there are lots of things that could be done at Fairy Lake, especially geared around children in the winter. And if, the path is clear, and if there is lighting, there's,
skating?
I'm a teacher, man.
Skating?
I would love that.
It used to be a place where they skated.
Yeah, they used to pull ice off of there too, right? Harvest
yes,
ice.
they did.
But I just think that it is a spot that, like we say, that's our jewel in our community. That draws so many people. People love going to Fairy Lake. So the more that we can have around that's centered around Fairy Lake, and then move out into the downtown, is fantastic.
Well, good luck. I support you all the way.
Great.
Wonderful. Thank
Very
you.
good. Is there any other comments from committee members? Well, thanks very much, guys. That's a really cool idea, and I'd encourage you to work with our staff, connect with through the Department of Community Services, and we can work out some of those details that you've mentioned here this evening. And I'd also encourage you, if you haven't already, to reach out to the Bruce County Museum and Cultural Center. Maybe you've already talked to them, and I'm sure that they would be really supportive of what you're trying to do there and could help out with some of these logistical questions, since they occupy a lot of the territory along Fairy Lake. So, but anyway, it's a really great idea. We really appreciate you coming in and lighting up our council meeting a little bit this evening. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Light
So-
up Fairy Lake for Christmas.
So that moves us on to our third and final delegation, which is from Kim Innes-Peterson, the Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce, and she's going to talk to us about the Tourism Year in Review. Kim.
Thank you for your time tonight, Mayor Charbonneau, councillors, members of the media, and others here tonight. I'm Kimberly Innes-Peterson, Executive Director of the Saugeen Shores Chamber of Commerce. Joining me here tonight are several members of the Executive Committee sitting right behind me, of the Chamber's Board of Directors, as well as Chamber staff. The Chamber staff that you see here tonight have been your tourism arm for the past 1 year and have gone above and beyond to deliver tourism services for our beautiful community. We are here tonight to provide a year in review of our tourism activities. Before I proceed with this presentation, I would like to take a minute to review the Saugeen Shores Chamber of Commerce Value Statement. These are new values that have been in use since December of 2018. I ask that you pay particular attention to Statement Number 2 as I deliver my presentation, since the information contained within was developed on this principle. For anyone not familiar with evidence-based business practices, it is a set of practices which helps decision-making by using critical thinking and the best available evidence to support or contradict assumptions. Starting November, December 2018, the Saugeen Shores Chamber of Commerce applied standard project management techniques that allowed us to track activities, costs, and trends over time. We separated tourism activities into two categories, project-based and operations. This put us in a better position to track costs associated with operating the tourism information centers and our tourism activities. I will provide a quick overview for the purpose of this presentation. However, detailed information can be found within the document that was supplied to you. A mutually agreed upon contract between the Chamber of Commerce and the Town of Saugeen Shores outlined our key mandate. These are the 6 key points that we worked on. The Chamber was responsible for operating 2 visitor centers where we responded to all walk-in, mail, email, telephone inquiries. Information was provided on a variety of topics, including accommodations, special events, weather conditions, municipal information, boating, you name it, we answered it. The Chamber provided the staffing, supplies, furniture, office equipment, computer hardware, software, books, and other material in order to provide the service. A number of improvements suggested for 2019 included the electronic kiosks and Wi-Fi hotspots. The kiosk project was delayed pending the tourism consultant's report. However, a Wi-Fi hotspot was added to the Southampton Visitor Centre with much positive feedback. The Chamber conducted and promoted community and tourism events to residents and visitors. We published community event calendars on 2 websites, visit SogeenShores.ca as well as SogeenShoresChamber.ca. We handed out pamphlets, flyers, brochures, as well as shares on social media. The Chamber was solely or partly involved in the planning and marketing of various events, including the Trolley, the Piper, Cruisers Nights, Marine Heritage, Grand Fondo, Ladies on the Lake, all the events that happened in town. A number of improvements for 2019 included a centralized events portal on the Chamber website. Unfortunately, we were unable to do that because of the contract with Tourist Town. The Chamber has supported the tourism component of the town's website through uploading community event activities. We responded to the public as necessary through the Contact Us link. We shared and maintained the business directory. We've worked with Tourist Town to improve access, to keep content updated, and to monitor website stats. The Chamber has supported tourism through social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram while following the town's social media policy. The Chamber has worked with the province, RTO7, the County of Bruce, the Town of Saugeen Shores, and other tourism promotion-based organizations in order to bring the best information and events to the visitors and residents of Saugeen Shores. A number of improvements suggested for 2019 included a website refresh, which was deferred pending the tourism consultant report, and registering with ridewithgps.com is currently in progress. The Chamber has continued to provide assistance and resources to the town's tourism and economic development related activities. We've implemented marketing initiatives to promote the town of Saugeen Shores, and we sought additional initiatives to maintain the profile of Saugeen Shores in key markets, and reviewed the marketing and promotion strategies on an ongoing basis. A number of improvements suggested for 2019 have been achieved. The social media influencer marketing plan is currently in progress. In an effort to fulfill our current tourism contract, the Saugeen Shores Chamber of Commerce hired 3 summer students. They worked a total of 970 hours. The Saugeen Shores Chamber of Commerce staff, full-time staff, averaged approximately 64.8% of our total operations on tourism-related activities. The Chamber provided other services in support of tourism and economic development of the town of Saugeen Shores as determined appropriate, and I have them listed up there. So what's up on the screen right now is a quick snapshot of the number of hours the Chamber staff has dedicated to tourism activities and the corresponding wages. This is a breakdown of our spending. The blue bar represents the actual expenses to date, which would be October the 22nd. The red bar is the proposed tourism budget from last year, and the purple is the projected actual tourism for this year. Chamber Board President Kate Camage-Irwin has worked with Jessica Lenthorne on the Tourism Steering Committee, and as a result, the Chamber is anticipating a shift in tourism responsibilities. As we prepare for this shift, the Saugeen Shores Chamber of Commerce is requesting a transition period contract of 1 to 2 years with a corresponding budget developed in consultation with the town. We look forward to hearing the recommendations set forth by the consultant and having further discussions with the town of Saugeen Shores to ensure we have a smooth transition of tourism from the Chamber of Commerce to a designated town department for tourism duties. Before I conclude, I would like to remind those present tonight that the Saugeen Shores Chamber of Commerce promotes all businesses when we promote tourism. Businesses do not have to pay to belong to tourism. Indeed, the absolute core of any Chamber of Commerce or Board of Trade is to support economic development and community vitality. And I'm available for any questions you have.
Thank you, Kimberly. questions or comments from members of the committee. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. I've taken a look through the budget that you presented to us, the year-to-date actuals, and I would just like to ask a couple of questions. First and foremost, I understand that there's fees associated with taking a ride on the trolley, as I've witnessed, but what I don't see represented in this budget is any revenue generated from the trolley. Is it possible that you could articulate what revenue was brought in from the trolley this year?
The purpose of this report was not to show our revenue. The purpose of the report was to show how we're spending tourism dollars. I can certainly provide that information to you at a later date.
Okay. Follow-up question to that. There is a significant, somewhere in the neighborhood of 200% overspend in terms of trolley operating expenses. Do you have a plan for 2020 in terms of how to substantiate that over expenditure in trolley expenses?
I'm not sure what you're referring.
So the trolley operating expenses under Project 5785 indicate a $31,577 expenditure with a 2019 proposed budget of $8,528 for a 370% overage.
Right. So the previous budget, so for 2019, that budget was developed based on historical budgets from years 2017 and 2018. And unfortunately, not all of that information was available when I developed the 2019 projected budget.
Okay, so I suspect that likely that the expense was the revenue minus the expenses, and that was possibly the expense in previous years. But nonetheless, I am a bit concerned. In the budget generally, there are a number of items that are either significantly over or a number that are significantly under, and I'm hopeful that perhaps we can ask to have sort of a variance explanation on a number of those. For example, some items are sitting at around 7 or 12% spent year to date, so I think that might help members of council understand.
I would just say, I think it's important to be clear that there will be a tourism presentation as part of the 2020 operating budget.
Okay.
So you'll get the complete year-end numbers at that point, and sort of that as in the context of our overall budget, which may provide some more clarity, if that helps.
So just my final question with regard to, I see that about 50% of the budget is allocated to staff, which given what we saw in the 2019 proposed budget, there were a number of items that allocated the anticipated spend to be simply staff time. But I did take a look through, and I'm concerned that a number of those, and I read 7 of those that anticipated costs were staff time, have either been deferred or in progress, only one of which I see completed thus far. So I'm hopeful that when we see this proposed, the final report at the end of the year, that we'll see some of those completed. But if I could just ask one final question in relation to the TAC committee, which is referenced as an accomplishment. Can you confirm what the TAC, through you, Mayor, what the TAC committee was established with the terms of reference and what they completed?
You, Kim?
Sorry, so what did the TAC complete? So the TAC was put together to discuss tourism initiatives that the Chamber was going to undergo. And it was tabled pending the tourism report. But I would like to just go back to the budget there for a moment, Councillor Smith, and answer some of the questions that you had.
Fantastic.
So when you look at our total expenses, we're actually in a pretty big deficit. So you provided, or the town provided, $171,500 for our tourism expenses, and we actually exceeded that in, even up to this point to date, in that amount of money as we fulfilled our tourism contract. So I just wanted to point that out to you.
Okay. Are there further comments from members of the committee? Councillor Rich.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm just going to go to the end of your report, and you said something about a transition of tourism to the town and some sort of transition expense, or can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Kate Kamajirwin, our board president, along with Jessica Lynn Thorne and two other people from RTO7, worked together with the tourism consultant to develop a strategy. So naturally, we assumed that tourism responsibilities would shift for the chamber. What I referenced was a transition period. So whatever the tourism consultant recommends and whatever the town decides to do, we are asking for a transition period.
I think it's just important to clarify that that's a discussion that council has not been involved in as of yet. So those are decisions that have not been made. They will be made at this table by council in partnership with our friends at the Chamber of Commerce and other tourism organizations across the municipality. So it's just important to be very clear that that's not a done deal. That's not something we're absolutely doing. It's something that is under discussion and may come back to this table for further discussion. Any other comments from members of the committee? No, thanks very much, Kim, for your presentation, and we're going to move right into talking about the tourism report. So it's good you came in this evening and presented this information to council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Charbonneau and others.
So with that, we are moving out of delegations. We have no public meetings. That removes us on to report of municipal officers and committees, and 7.2 general government, a staff report on the tourism strategy, and I'll turn it over to the manager of strategic initiatives.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Tourism is recognized as an economic driver in the town of Saugeen Shores, and in January of 2018, Council received our Economic Development Strategic Plan. A critical priority listed in that strategic plan was to review the Tourism Service Agreement, and I did, in my staff report, I put this specific language directly from the strategic plan. So earlier this year, we did leverage funding and advanced our partnership with the Regional Tourism Organization 7, Bruce Gray Simcoe, and we've hired Mellor Murray Consulting to see this project through. Today I'm asking for Council to receive the tourism strategy, and I'd like to invite Aileen Murray and Ken to present on the strategy for us. Yep, just before we get started, I do want to say thanks very much to Aileen and Ken working on this project, and to Alex and Bill with the RTO7. We've done lots of close work, and of course Kate Kamajirwin, president of the Saugeen Shores Chamber of Commerce. That's the steering committee for this project. We've worked very well together, and I'm really looking forward to the report tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to you and council and the rest of staff. It's a pleasure to be back in front of council. I had the opportunity and the privilege to work with you on the economic development strategy and to come in front of you back in January 2018. So I'm very pleased to be back. Ken and I have certainly learned a lot about the tourism product in Saugeen Shores over the last several months, and we're quite pleased to share that with you tonight. So to start with, just a little bit about the process that we went through to develop the tourism strategy. There were two real phases, one of research and analysis, and the second would be the strategic plan development phase. So during that background research stage, we did a lot of review of existing materials, your policies, your planning documents, those types of things. We looked at the trends and issues facing tourism more broadly across the region, and also the province, and even globally, because tourism has certainly changed over the last decade. Then there was a period of stakeholder engagement, and I'll share some of the highlights from that exercise with you tonight. And we did a review of various governance models, so the ways that tourism could be delivered within a community, and looked at the pros and cons of those various models. we met with the steering committee at that point to talk about what we had learned and to establish some areas that we wanted to look at, some communities that we thought would provide some good background on best practices. We looked at what the strategic priorities would be and have developed some draft strategy with goals and actions and strategic actions. That's what we'll be sharing with you this evening. We do have an opportunity to refine that strategy as required, and then an implementation plan is still outstanding. That would be something that would come next on. So now that we've got a plan, how would Saugeen Shores move forward? So that's the process that we went through. I'm going to ask my colleague Ken to talk a little bit with you about destination management.
Thanks, Aileen. There used to be a term destination marketing organization, and it has transitioned over the last decade, I guess, to destination management organization, meaning that a DMO, that which organizes tourism on behalf of a municipality, is really supporting the local tourism offering in all elements, not just marketing, coordinating the tourism stakeholders, and all elements of where research starts and right through to the element of marketing, which is the box on the left. So really it's just a matter of destination management organization is a term now that speaks to the body that represents a destination. In Saugeen Shores today, as you can see, we have 5 different websites. The Regional Tourism Organization, RTO7, which spans from Barrie through South Georgian Bay to Saugeen Shores, has a website, as well as Bruce County, Explore the Bruce, which is a very interesting website, all of which have components of social media and all different elements of promotion and website. Within Saugeen Shores, we have the Chamber of Commerce. We have 2 websites, one each for Port Elgin and Southampton. So the purpose of this slide really is to show there are 5 websites represented in promoting Saugeen Shores, the town of Saugeen Shores, from a tourism standpoint. Tourism marketing is about singular voices. It's about branding. It's about ensuring that there's a very unified message going out to those that receive it, whether it's in Ontario, the United States, or around the world for this destination. And we just simply cite that this is unique in terms of having 5 various websites that speak to the town of Saugeen Shores.
So community consultation was an important component of this strategy, and so as part of this exercise, we had 14 tourism stakeholders that met and did a exercise, a focus group, where we talked about the issues and the opportunities and the strategic priorities for tourism in the community. We also met with 13 business owners, operators, and community leaders that are actively engaged in tourism in some role. And then we had a community survey, and I have to say that it was unprecedented for me to deal with the volume. We had 1,126 respondents to the tourism survey. So we certainly heard from the community during the strategic planning process. Just to give you a couple of highlights from the survey itself, we asked the respondents to talk about what were the top 3 activities that they liked to do with friends and families when they came to visit them in the community, and you can see that 81% said that the beach and water activities were among their preferred activities. Half talked about the dining and culinary experiences in Saugeen Shores, and then another 40% festivals, local events, a natural attraction, through down to cycling, which at 25% is still pretty significant. So we had some really great ideas about what was working in the community already. When we asked people about what they thought could be threats to the local tourism economy, about a third talked about being too crowded and busy. And I should say that when the comments that accompanied that, they really were talking about some experiences that they had seen in neighboring communities. They referenced places like Sauble Beach and Tobermory and the overwhelming numbers that had come into those communities and how it had negatively impacted visitor experiences there. So that's what they were talking about in those
in the survey. So when we asked then about what they thought the priorities should be for the tourism strategy, they talked about sustainable tourism and the long-term viability of Saugeen Shores tourism assets, affordable housing for tourism employees. They recognized, and there was a lot of discussion about the challenge of finding a place for people to live that were working on seasonal roles in some occasions, and not with some of the higher wages that you might see in some other roles. They talked about long-term sustainable funding for tourism and having commitments for more than a year at a time, so that there could be long-term planning of tourism activities, and then off-season tourism offerings to address seasonality. They also talked about visitor services and the access to information about the tourism product in Saugeen Shores and alternatives to hotels and how that was addressed. And as you might expect, in that area, there was people that were for and against a lot of the changes that are happening with rental platforms, that sort of thing. So from that, we identified a number of strategic priorities that should be considered and addressed. One of the ones that we heard significantly about was governance. Make a decision on how this is going to be managed and run, and how you're going to engage the tourism operators and providers in governance. Seasonality, how can we get beyond a one-season focus in tourism activity? That was of great interest. Sustainability, again, maintaining the tourism assets, and also in that component, working to support local business so that they were also sustainable. That was included in that area of priority. Rental accommodation, recognizing the significance of rental accommodation as an accommodation provider in this area, and addressing the burgeoning or the overwhelming activity in various rental platforms, including Airbnb and VRBO. And visiting friends and relatives, that is a significant component of tourism attraction across Ontario. It is also one that's of great importance in this area, and so the priority would be to how to leverage that. And then finally, new marketing practices. Tourism marketing has evolved significantly, and making sure that Saugeen Shores was accessing the technology and the digital marketing processes there. So with all of those priorities in mind, this draft tourism strategy incorporates a vision, a mission. There are 6 goals and objectives and 39 specific actions. The vision, I will read it to you. Saugeen Shores as a preferred all-season tourism destination. The tourism sector is an important contributor to the town's economic well-being and quality of life. And you'll notice we've got both of those. The committee felt it was important to have a balance there of well-being and quality of economic well-being, and quality of life. On the mission, then, we see, as the committee had established this mission, the town of Saugeen Shore leads, and that's an important word in this sentence, it leads its tourism partners in sustainable product development and promotion to increase tourism economic and social benefits.
So 6 goals and objectives that we have. There's no question that effective leadership is important in destination marketing, and that cohesive programs, development, implementation take place. The very most important element of a destination marketing organization and working with a municipality is effective leadership. Secondly, as mentioned already, much of our focus has been on targeting opportunities fall, winter, and spring for the obvious reasons. I think everyone in this municipality realizes what the impact of the summer is, and how the only way to really grow tourism beyond the jam-packed summer, for obvious reasons because of a fantastic beach line or coastline, is to focus on the off-season activity. Sustainability goes along with that in terms of not just in considering the environmental impact, but supporting local businesses and ensuring tourism contributes to the quality of life. So there's lots of elements in tourism that are key to our overall goals and objectives. Quality accommodation is a major issue. Accommodation is no longer just the fixed roof hotel, motel that we've all known and grown up with. It obviously is part of the peer-to-peer economy, which affects all our lives, from homestay to Airbnb, etc. Visiting friends and relatives has become, in the world of tourism, and particularly in Ontario, with whatever, 6.5 million people in the expanded GTA, has become a very major element of tourism economic development. It is not about overnight stays in hotels. It is, to a certain extent, about overnight stays in the sharing economy, but very much it's about the money spent when people come to visit, whether it's Bruce employees or retired people here. So it has an impact all over this province. It has probably in the last 5 years become the biggest factor, with various elements, including a very changing GTA, which has numbers of new Canadians who are new to the country, new to the province, and exploring it. Strategic marketing is a key element. The world of placing ads and spending money has changed considerably, almost non-existent now. The good news is for tourism marketers and for organizations like municipalities, the cost of marketing is much less expensive, minuscule compared to the past, and that's because we are looking at digital opportunities and social media, and that is the way the consumer is buying tourism these days, from Europe to the United States to China to Saugeen Shores.
So we'll walk you through the 6 goals and objectives quickly and give you some sense of the strategic actions within those areas. So under effective leadership, we are recommending that Council make the investment in staff and budget to bring this activity into the municipal realm. There we see an important role for the municipality in engaging and collaborating and coordinating all of this activity, and engaging with elected officials, senior staff, and informing them on what decisions they make, how they will impact tourism's potential, and provide information to support the tourism partners across Saugeen Shores. We do look in the report in some detail into the 3 various governance models. The public model, where tourism is within an economic development or municipal department, where it's operated by the private sector, and where it's operated in a public-private basis. We do go through those details in some detail in the report, but I can say that for the type of money that Saugeen Shores is investing, we really believe that the control that you would have by maintaining that operation internally is the right direction for the municipality at this point. So that is our recommendation, that tourism become within an economic development department, and that there's a modified contracted service for the visitor information services that the Chamber of Commerce would provide. The tourism staff, should you choose to go in that direction, we would see a tourism coordinator who would have a bright new hire, shiny out of some tourism program from college, or an e-marketing program that would deliver the digital marketing component, and then work with seasonal staff. On the extended tourism season, the activities would include really working to leveraging the activity that happens during the summer season, getting those names, getting and promoting directly to those folks about why they need to return to Saugeen Shores off-season, having that off-peak tourism content available when they come in the summer to tell them all the reasons they need to come back, working with event coordinators across the municipality on developing off-season events, and even considering incentives for that. And finally, corporate meeting facilities. You have a huge asset in the Bruce Power facility, and all of the employees that are there that have people that want that are meeting and doing things, having a corporate meeting facility where they can have those meetings locally, where they can spend their money locally, we think is a really important consideration. On the sustainability component, there's again a number of facets to it. It's making sure that you don't experience some of the over-tourism that some other communities have experienced, supporting local businesses so that they can be viable year-round and not just seasonally, and ensuring that tourism does contribute to residents' quality of life. During the survey, we heard a lot of comments about dune grass, people arguing on both sides of it, for and against the management, so that there really appears to be a need for more education and communication in that area. And so education on sustainable waterfront practices, I think, would be a really important component in that discussion on sustainability. Developing incentives, again, for the shoulder season to make tourism more of a year-round activity. Assisting operators and event coordinators to understand how they can engage in sustainable practices, and even things like encouraging social tagging, responsible social tagging, so we don't have incidents where people are running off to a sunflower field because and overwhelming residents from one Instagram post. Those are the types of things. And finally, working with the small businesses in the community to make sure that they have the tools and resources they need to work and operate effectively.
The Goal 4 speaks to quality accommodation, hugely important in terms of guest room standards, all of the issues around the sharing economy, Airbnb, etc., in terms of the listings, the database. The time has gone when Airbnb and the likes, VRBO, etc., are hidden by tourism organizations. They are part of the mix. They're an important part in many cases in a destination like this because they are cottage rentals and certainly offering amenities that go beyond a basic hotel room. And hotels, we know that is it's a major case. The hotels in this market can do very well with the business community and the business that comes through that. Ongoing seasonal communications with those people, with the people who own the vacation rentals and are putting them on the various websites, the sharing economy websites. And then we get into the notion of education and networking workshops, and they are networking workshops. They're not tests, they're not standards that we're putting against people who are involved in the accommodation industry, including the motels and the hotels. Getting closer to the corporate hotels and the motel visits and understanding the corporate hotels are very highly priced for good reason in the summer here, not because of the corporate world, which is pretty consistent all year long, but because of the added higher end component that comes into town and stays in the hotels. And lastly is an online host toolkit, and that is for people in the sharing economy. That's for individual homeowners who are renting out. So the notion of quality accommodation these days is to embrace the various sites, the Airbnb owners, and to communicate with them and slightly educate them, but really engage them. So quality accommodation, what we're talking about here is the various components of those, as you can see with Airbnb and all the different organizations that are involved with quality accommodation. On the right is a Nova Scotia sort of standards program that's in place to assist in the housing, in the overnight accommodation side. So quality accommodation is something that is, I'll say, ever so gently pushed now by DMOs in terms of looking at both, again, the basic hotel, that the consistent product that we've had in hotels over the years, along with the sharing economy products.
So we've passed over the 20-minute mark there, guys, so if we could just make our way quickly through the rest of it, I'm sure there'll be some questions or comments from members as well.
Just a few. Goal 5 out of 6 is VFR activity. I think we've talked about this. It has a huge economic impact these days, VFR. there is support for people who are residents of Saugeen Shores, and that's what needs to take place in terms of the marketing organization, online tourism kits, and things of that. Obviously, recognizing Bruce Power and the impact it has on visiting friends and relatives, and ambassador programs and things of that nature. So it really is sort of establishing a real process for the visiting friends and relatives component of accommodation. Marketing, very quickly, marketing has changed significantly. Obviously, our belief, as in many destinations, is one official tourism website is required. A social media strategy is first and foremost these days. It is not something that follows brand marketing. It is something that creates brand marketing. Blogs, fed by Twitter and Facebook, are communication tools that feed the blog. The job of a tourism marketer these days is to talk about visitor experiences, storytelling. It's not to promote. It's to talk about what experiences you can enjoy in all 4 seasons. Targeting the right visitor profile, understanding who does come to the destination, and going through new visitor services program, branding strategy. It's really all one big component, which is to leverage, speak with one voice, and obviously use the digital tools with the staff that are hired to do the job. And that is just an element of new marketing practices. On the right, you can see the digital visitor services clearly has turned into a digital component throughout the province, throughout North America in terms of information sharing with customers who are in town, with visitors. And then you will see the we're going quick. Yeah, no, that's fine. And there, again, I've already talked. Storytelling is a big part of marketing these days. Talking about experiences, trip planning are sort of things that are involved in marketing. So the big ads, the focus on just telling the market, telling the consumer what great assets we have is really not the way things are marketed these days. Feature profiles of farms, real life activities in Saugeen Shore. People are traveling for very different reasons. And then the whole social media component. Thank you.
So this final slide is just a compilation of the strategy. I call it the strategy on a page, our vision, mission, and the various goals that we would propose for Saugeen Shores, and we would be pleased to entertain any questions.
Sure, thank you very much. I'm sure there will be questions from members of the committee. We'll start with Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Eileen and Ken, for the presentation. I have lots of questions, but I know our time is short. I've got 2 actually that I'll ask tonight. One is just on private cottage rentals. Did you look at cottage rentals websites or some of the businesses that, I just wondered how you looked at that. Was it just Airbnb, or did you look at, we've got a pretty large private cottage rental?
Oh, yes, no, absolutely. So the answer to the question is we went beyond just the Airbnb and the sharing economy. Just private individual residences that are part of websites or have websites are part of the entire mix. I mean, they fall into all of that, what we talked about. So that is the summer product here. It's not hotels, it's not motels. It is the cottage market, and will be forever, and it's really just a matter of engaging them so that there's some organized approach to it. And that doesn't mean it's a poor approach now, it's just something that brings them together and gets some element of communication and direction from the tourism marketing body.
Thanks. And I've just got one other question, and that is within your sustainability section, one of the goals that you talk about is maintaining the quality of life for residents at the same time that we are welcoming visitors into our town. And I think that's, as a councillor, that's a big challenge that I think all members of council face in the summertime, are complaints from residents who are concerned about what they see as violations of beach etiquette, and sometimes it's just a matter of visitors not not being familiar with the rules or whatever, other than having heavier bylaw enforcement, which we don't necessarily want for a number of reasons. Do you have some strategies of how we can balance that?
We've referred to it in the strategy as education as opposed to enforcement, and I think that's really where you want to start. I think that people really do value the beachfront, and I think it's a matter of telling and sharing and making sure people are aware of what is appropriate beach behavior. But I don't know that there's any, unfortunately, silver or magic bullet on that component.
It's a delicate thing.
It is a delicate thing.
We had talked a couple of years ago, I think, about having a beach ambassador program, which might be something we could pursue again. It's tough to do it diplomatically.
Yeah, and I do think the Beach Ambassador program is a positive way to manage that activity.
Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thanks for the presentation and your work here. It's very interesting, and it spurs a lot of thought and a lot of questions, but I'm going to try and keep it to two. With regards to your governance model, you're clearly advocating for a public governance model where we have somebody in-house working under economic development, coordinating single point of contact, all of the tourist initiatives for the town, as opposed to what we currently have, which I guess is a combination of public-private and public-private partnership, because we have, like I say, 5 different websites and different organizations. Is it the volume of tourism that would drive it to be done in the public realm? Because traditionally, and of course we have grown significantly over the past quarter century, where traditionally the Chamber of Commerce is the go-to place, and they're the contacts for all of the business operators and the tourism operators. I'm just interested to see how that model is seen as being less effective than having a government a government employee model, because the Chamber is all of their members are the operators and the people that are providing the services. It would seem to me, at least, that there would be some synergies there, as opposed to having somebody who works in the town office who doesn't necessarily have a vested interest with the operators. First question.
So there was a lot in there, but I think that really when Ken talked earlier about the evolution from a destination marketing organization to a destination management organization, that's where we started to see a shift from a number of communities that were contracting with chambers of commerce to bringing it in-house, and we have seen a transition in that way. And there's still lots of chambers that are doing it, but we have seen in the past that several years that there has been a transition in-house, because at the municipal level you've got the coordination abilities that perhaps the chamber would not have, where you can bring in the various municipal departments that would have some influence and impact over tourism activities, where you would have connections beyond just the tourism related businesses to be looking a little bit broader. Ken, do you want to add anything to that?
All of that, I won't echo that as much as to say that it is now destination management. And destination management in a lot of municipalities now, we're finding across the country, but I'll stick with Ontario, is moving to a model that used to be a DMO. It used to not so much be the Chamber of Commerce. It was the private industry, the hotel industry, and organizations of that nature were what drove it, particularly in the larger cities. So I would say that now destination management speaks to sustainability, speaks to things that private enterprise alone is not so attuned to or involved in across the tourism landscape. So this has a lot to do with tourism has evolved considerably, and marketing has become less so, because you absolutely need a very specialized social media person as part of this component. That is your star marketer these days at a very many cases junior level.
So it's the landscape that's changed, not necessarily the volume of tourism.
Right.
Right. Okay. And the second question is with regards to moving it out of the core summer months and getting the shoulder seasons involved. And I agree that needs to be, should be a good focus area, because the beach is the beach. People are going to come here no matter what because of the beach, but they don't come in November for the beach or in April. And you touched a little bit on the sharing of experiences a little bit, but I see a trend, or I think there's an emerging trend towards experiential tourism, where you have operators who are actually operating and offering people boat trips, canoe trips, fishing lessons, knitting classes, whatever it might be, experiential. And does that evolve, or is that part of your strategy here? Do you touch on that at all?
Absolutely, and it is referenced in the report. Experiential tourism is a really important component, and no question, it takes longer to organize those things, to nurture those types of activities, but the yield will be pretty significant on the other side, because those are the folks that are going to spend more time in your community and spend more time in the stores and the restaurants and the accommodation as they're benefiting from these experiences.
Councillor Rich.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. It's funny, when I was reading through your community survey, I was reminded of a Yogi Berra quote. He was asked one time if he went to a particular restaurant in New York, and he said, I don't go there anymore. It's too crowded. Nobody goes there anymore because it's too crowded, right? And then I'm looking at your tourism study, and it says a threat to the local tourism economy is because it's too crowded, which would seem to me that is an effect of a successful tourism strategy as opposed to threat. Anyway, I think that there's a lot of really good stuff inside of there. I like the old idea of cohesiveness, good leadership. It seems intuitive that we're going to move away from paper-based, and we're going to move more towards kiosks, and we're not going to have offices, and there's not going to be lots of pamphlets, but there's going to be websites. Instead of 5, maybe 1 website for the overall community. All that seems to make a lot of sense to me. I really welcome the report. I like it a lot, and I think it's overdue. Thank you.
Very good. Further questions from committee members? Councillor Schreider.
Thank you, and through you, thank you very much. I think it's a great document and a strategy for us to be able to, it'll be a guiding document for us for tourism. So just to break it down, so the recommendation would be that it would go to under the municipal bracket. Obviously, there would be budget implications to that. Is this going to be something that's proposed as a 2020 budget deliberation when we discuss those things, or how is this being
Maybe we can pose that question to the manager of strategic initiatives.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. What I'm asking for tonight is for council to receive the strategy, and then we can discuss further if there's specific pieces that you'd like me to advance. Eileen did mention that it is still, there's a couple things outstanding from the document, and that is prioritizing the action items, assigning an approximate budget amount, and then performance indicators as well. So we have a little bit more to come back, but certainly I'm open to anything additional.
Perfect. Thank you.
The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, and this one's for Jessica, but look to you to see if it's doable. Jessica, as we're going through all this, and to our presenters tonight, thank you very much. I really enjoyed meeting with you in the summer, and your presentation was fantastic. Jessica, as we're moving forward to this, we're going to receive it tonight, but it's been mentioned in a previous report that we're looking at combining and taking over a few things. How do you see this moving forward of the implementation of some of the chamber initiatives that are moving towards tourism, or is that something we talk about now, Mr. Mayor, or is that a later discussion?
They may have a comment. The manager of strategic initiatives.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, certainly as council receives the report and we have that additional information, we'll be able to work through that. I'm very grateful. We have a very positive relationship with the Saugeen Shores Chamber of Commerce, and so I would welcome some conversation with them on what's currently happening, and then how we can all move forward and be successful together.
I think it's important to note this is a framework. It's a strategy. We have lots of strategies, and we don't implement them all in one day. It takes us often many years to implement a strategy when we receive one, and so I think that the intent would be to proceed towards some of the goals in here, but it's not something that's going to happen overnight. That's for sure. It's going to take some work and working with our partners. The Vice Deputy Mayor.
comments, a couple of questions. I've always felt that economic development tourism fit like a glove, and a question I have of the consulting firm is, are you seeing a lot of that around the province of Ontario, where economic development departments are emerging, taking on the role of tourism? It's a good fit, but are you seeing lots happening around Ontario?
We absolutely are. And particularly now that talent attraction has become such an important component of economic development activity, there's a real alliance between visitor attraction and resident attraction. So all of those things work together effectively.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to hear too, our Deputy Mayor and Councillor Schreider mentioned about governance, and I just wonder if it's all an all or none, or I guess those conversations are going to take place with the Chamber. I'd like to commend the Chamber for the great job they've done over the years with managing, delivering our tourism services. I mean, it's a big portfolio, and I know there's probably some things they think, my goodness, why are we doing those things? And maybe there's a few things they feel they should continue to do as part of this new level of governance. So, has been some discussions at all with the Chamber, or will it be in the future in terms of a hybrid model? Will it be all or none, where we take over tourism services 100%, or will there be an opportunity for them to maintain some of the things they're doing, continue to do some of the things they're doing?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, certainly we, again, the positive relationship that we do have, we would welcome those conversations with the Chamber, and providing that the report is received and there's further direction from Council, I'd be happy to open those conversations and explore whether there is a hybrid model or in which direction we would like to take tourism.
So my last point, Mr. Mayor, under governance, we have a highly qualified economic development department with a manager of strategic initiatives. We have an economic development coordinator, and we have a communications specialist. I hope I got those titles right. Did I get those titles right? Were they correct? So we're also calling for 2 new positions, a tourism coordinator and digital marketing specialist. Was there talk at all when you're recommending those 2 positions? We have an economic development department of 3. Has there been discussion throughout the planning process where we take a look at the digital marketing specialist, for example, and the synergies between, is it a new position, or we have a communication specialist in economic development? Was there talk about that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we didn't get into that level of detail with our current staffing structure with Aileen and Ken. They certainly recognize my role in that we have an economic development strategic plan. We did not get into what detailed. It could look like in-house.
You didn't drill down like that, but those are the kinds of things that Council will hear in the future, where we're talking about 2 new positions. Can our communication specialist, for example, take a look at that digital marketing specialist person? Those are the kinds of discussions that will come back to Council.
Yeah, the CAO has a comment. He may shed some light.
I just want to comment. It's a good question, a fair question. When I read the box through you, Mr. Mayor, the bottom 2 boxes are roles, and I don't think they're meant to designate a position. So it's more of a function rather than each box is one person. And we'll get to that level of detail, but that's certainly how I read it.
All right. Is there anything further? I just want to say thank you very much to you folks for coming this evening. I would say that on the question of websites, it's interesting to me. It seems like websites sort of spawn like rabbits. They just pop up. We believe it or not very many years ago, had a plan to go down to 1 tourism website. We implemented that plan, and then many more sprang up. And so it's very difficult, it has been in the past at least, to have 1 tourism website and keep 1 tourism website. I'm very eager to get back to that. We have an excellent model, a public-private partnership that costs the taxpayer $0. And so I'm certainly not in favor of spending any taxpayer dollars on tourism websites. We don't need to. So I'm eager to get back to that model of a single tourism website, and I'm hopeful that that's one that we can implement in the very near future. So thank you very much, and we'll look forward to moving forward with this recommendation. And I'll read the recommendation. It's recommended that Council receives a tourism strategy dated April 28th, 2019. Questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. So that moves us now on to the the infrastructure and development. Do you want to? Okay, so we have a staff report we're now under infrastructure and development, pardon me, a staff report on traffic bylaw update. The director is not available this evening, so I'll just ask if, I'll read the recommendation. I'll ask members of council if they have any questions. It's recommended that council pass an amendment to the traffic bylaw to update the current stop signs and roundabouts, signalization and definition changes. Questions or comments from members of the committee? Councillor Grace?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my question is, in the background, it talks about the installation of various new stop signs and roundabouts within or adjacent to recent developments, which makes sense. Can we look forward to the possibility of more possible stop signs and roundabouts as a result of the the transportation master plan?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, that would be yes.
Anything further from members of the committee? Seeing nothing, all in favor? It's carried. That moves us then on to a staff report, request for second water service, 157 Saugeen Beach Road. This again comes from the Director of Infrastructure and Development Services, who is not here this evening. So I'll read the recommendation, and staff will answer the questions as they're able. It's recommended that council deny Mr. Gadak's request for a second water service to 157 Saugeen Beach Road. Questions or comments from members of the committee? Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Having read this report, and after having heard Mr. Gadak
yep.
Speak to us 2 weeks ago, I tend to disagree with the report in that the rationale, as far as I can see, gleaned out of this two-page report, is that we don't want to set up a situation where the owner could set up a secondary dwelling unit on the other side of the creek in his garage, so to speak. But like our West Area friends who were here earlier, we are in the business of selling water. That's a business that the town is in, and certainly the question I asked them was, the more people that are hooked up, the more the costs are shared, and the more it's advantageous to have more hookup points than not. So just at the prospect that he may sometime down the road legally or illegally put in a secondary dwelling unit and have a flush toilet and a sink in his garage as the rationale for denying this, I don't really see the rationale to that. I don't agree with that rationale, and I think that for the sake of hooking up another meter, and if he's willing to pay the $90-odd a month hookup fee to have that water supplied to his garage on the other side of this water course, I think I support that, and for that reason will be voting against this recommendation. Thank you.
Any further comments from members of the committee? The Vice Deputy Mayor?
I think we should be very cautious about this. And, two water meters, two houses on the same lot potentially is, in my view, dangerous precedent setting, Mr. Mayor. And I think we ought to be really careful with this recommendation this evening. If we want to revisit our building bylaws and zoning bylaws and allow two houses, two permits on one lot, then I guess maybe we should revisit that. But boy, this sets a pretty dangerous precedent, in my view. So I think this is a cautious one.
Okay, further comments from members of the committee? I tend to agree with Councillor Mayette. I don't see I don't have any difficulty with Mr. Gadak. If he wants a second water meter, he's going to pay us for the service. Secondary suites are permitted on all lots in the town of Saugeen Shores under the provincial policy statement. We don't have any choice in that. We can't deny them anyway. So if somebody wanted to put one on, he'd get one. And frankly, that's a good thing from an affordable housing standpoint. And in terms of setting precedents, I think it should be clear and make clear in the minutes that you can't set a precedent this way. Council will decide at its discretion at will, when requested, whatever it wants to decide. And if somebody else wants a second water meter, they have to come back here, and council may approve and council may deny. I don't think we should deny the municipality the $90 a month. If he wants to pay it, then my view is let him pay it. So anyway, my vote will be against the recommendation. Is there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's defeated. If that's the view of the will of council, will somebody make a recommendation to direct staff to permit Mr. Gadak to have a second water meter? Moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Rich. Is that clear enough to staff, that resolution? Yes. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, so that moves us then on to communications petitions for committee of whole action, and there is one item there, a resolution from the municipality of Grey Highlands, and it has to do with conservation authorities. I assume all have read it, and I'll take direction from the committee to either support or note and file the resolution. Are there comments? Councillor Rich?
I'd move we would note and file it.
It's been moved to note and file, second by the Deputy Mayor. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? It's noted and filed. That moves us on to communications petitions for committee of the whole information. Comment from the Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And there's a couple letters in there. I won't speak to Jeff Myatt's letter, but I'll speak to the slow pitch letter from the co-presidents of the Saugeen Shores Adult Slow Pitch League and the president of the Saugeen Shores Minor Baseball, Laura Cronenberg. Connor Yorth and McKay in the first group, and Laura in the second group with minor ball. These are well-written letters. I think they serve a good purpose in that these groups are ready to go. These groups are saying to this council that we would like to form a fundraising committee and get a campaign going, whether they're going to raise $500,000 or $1 million for the Lamont Sports Park. They really want to get started and without delay, as quickly as they can. So my recommendation this evening, Mr. Mayor, if I could ask staff to reach out to Mr. Yorth, McKay, and to Laura Cronenberg, and in particular, there's another letter from Jeff Myatt there too, but I would just hope that staff would reach out to these organizations and see what we can do to help them get the ball rolling. Pardon the pun.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks very much for that. We certainly appreciate those letters from the ball leagues and associations, and I think certainly staff will engage with those organizations and others across the municipality interested in fundraising for the Lamont Park. Certainly there's a lot of interest across the municipality in that project, and so I know that our staff will respond to those letters that we have received. Anything else on the communications for information? Don't see anything, so that removes us on to reports of department heads, and the first one is a people plan report, and it's written there that it's Jessica Linthorne, Manager of Strategic Initiatives, but I think Brittany Welsh has the report.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll kick off the conversation.
Oh, geez, I should. I'm sorry, I was going to hand it right to her, but
yeah, that's okay. I'll get us introduced. But we are wearing the same shirt this evening, so we'll start with that comment. The People Plan Information Report for me personally is a career highlight thus far. I'm very excited about the People Plan. It's been a lot of work. So there was an investment from Council to look toward organizational effectiveness with a couple of objectives in mind. One of them being to plan for and to build a positive workplace culture, but then certainly to retain our talent during a time of a national labor shortage. So my role, Manager of Strategic Initiatives, has been to leverage experience and expertise in-house and to determine what matters most to our workforce, and to learn from my colleagues as we consider what we should focus on moving forward. So the Staff Ambassador Group, where I will hand it to Britt in a sec, the Staff Ambassador Group has come together 1 year ago. It's a diverse representation of the Saugeen Shores workforce, and I'm really proud of the work that we've accomplished together. The People Plan, and a hard copy was left in your mailbox. The People Plan is a roadmap. It's an exciting roadmap for our organization. It was built with support from the senior management team and lots of involvement with the Staff Ambassador Group. So having said that, I am going to pass it to my colleague Brittany, and I have a couple of gifts from Brittany and the Staff Ambassador Group that I'm going to hand out to Council as well.
Thanks, Jessica. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm Brittany Welsh, and I'm the Accounts Receivable Utility Billing Clerk in Corporate Services Department of the Town of Saugeen Shores. I've been involved with the Staff Ambassador Group since January of 2019. The group is made up of 10 diverse colleagues, from operations staff to administrative staff, non-union and union employees. We meet a couple times a year to discuss the things that are important to all staff. We are representatives for the workplace, and we take great pride in that. We are an open and honest group that is trusted by senior management to play a role in creating an even better workplace. We've been lucky enough to help with different projects such as the People Plan and get to see it take shape. Jessica brought forward this idea, and through facilitated workshops and conversations, the Staff Ambassador Group and senior management had the opportunity to provide input and feedback. We've helped define what matters most to employees, our core values. The People Plan is a guiding document as we continue to work toward becoming an employer of choice in the region. Being part of this workplace with these core values is exciting, and it will help us show others the values we have as an organization. We want to be trusted to be the best we can be at our professions. We want to be respected to make a decision for our employer because we are the experts, and we want to work for a team that encourages and supports colleagues. I talked with some of my fellow staff ambassadors and asked for a few testimonials for them. From Jamie Davies, she said, "When I read the People Plan, it makes me want to work here." From Candace Carswell, "I am a member of the Staff Ambassador Group because I feel it is important to give back to the corporation through involvement in strategy building for a positive workplace." And then from Laura Cranenberg, "It's inspiring to see how staff are coming together to share their ideas and suggestions to improve the way we work and the way we live within our corporation." And from Colleen Dossal, "The power of the group was felt early on. While there will always be work to be done, the foundational groundwork has been laid." Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you both, Jessica and Brittany. Other questions or comments from Council? Thanks very much for... Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, I would just like to commend the staff that were involved, in particular Jessica, but nonetheless all of the staff who took the time, and it's quite a brave initiative. I've been involved in a number of employee engagement initiatives, and it's not easy to be the few leaders amongst the crowd who stand up and want to be part of something like this. So I really commend you. I was reading through it, and like I believe Jamie Davies, I want to work here too. So I hope that inspires a number of people. But it also harkens back to a lot of us during the election campaign talked about what this committee means to us. And for me, it was certainly about a group of people coming together to get things done. And we certainly wouldn't be able to do that without staff and the work that you guys are doing to keep that together. So thank you, and thank you for that report.
Yeah, thank you for that. Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I appreciate, too, the work you've done, and I like the quotes. Do you have any quotes from the fellows that are driving the snowplows and the working in the garage and that?
Oh, you go. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The one that we didn't read off, but I think that was just an error when we were gathering our notes. Chris Williamson is a union staff person, works long, hard hours, really tough job, and Chris is at the table. At our last meeting a couple weeks ago, Chris said, "You know what I love about the People Plan is that it's all the things we talk about on paper." And I know what he means, right? Like it's a roadmap. It's here. We're going to work toward this, and we're all on the same page. And so I wanted to share that just in relation to that. We have a few public works representatives at the table, and are consistently sharing and asking that they go back out and share with their peers. That's the magic of how this comes together and the message is shared.
Okay, and just another quick question is, do you see a role at all for us on council to engage with staff and try and make their work days better, or is it just there's always nothing better than the executive team to encourage employees, I find, but I say that a little tongue-in-cheek, but is there a role for us to talk with employees? Or we get to go to the Christmas party and the town and the summer barbecue party, but that's about the extent of it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would invite you to read further the core values of trust, respect, and teamwork. And I think that there's a role for everybody to play as we work toward implementing those values and those behaviors. Certainly they were developed and they resonate in-house with us, but I would certainly welcome elected officials to have a read through it, and I'd welcome any additional comments.
Anything for Councillor Grace?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, guys, for the report. Will this be published for the public to see eventually?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do hope so. Right now, the primary use is internal facing. We're getting it up and going. We just launched in September. I would like to see the people plan being used as an attraction tool too. The City of Kitchener has a very big people plan, and it's right on their website that when you're applying for a job, they're saying this is how we behave. These are our core values. This is who we are. So I would like to continue to move this up to that level where we are using it to help us attract people that are going to fit within our culture.
Very good. Anything else? Well, thanks very much, guys. The most important asset we have as an organization is our people. And so investing in them and having a plan to make sure that they continue to be content working for us is really important. So thank you for your work on that and for your presentation. So that moves on to item 2, an information report on the performance measurement workshop, and Heather Hyde, the Economic Development Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, we are partnering once again with OMAFRA, which is the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, to host a workshop surrounding economic development performance measurement, and that will be hosted on November 6th at the Southampton Town Hall. This is a follow-up event to our Community Economic Development Workshop, which we held in May 2019. The guest list for the event will include members of council, members of the Saugeen Shores Senior Management Team, economic development stakeholders in the area, and economic development staff from neighboring communities. There are 5 areas of focus for the workshop, which include performance measurement and economic development, developing a performance measurement framework, the shifting focus of economic development, putting performance measurement into action, as well as implementing performance measurement in local and regional areas. Identifying and promoting provincial economic development programs is aligned with Saugeen Shores' economic development goals and is a recommendation in the Economic Development Strategic Plan.
Thank you very much. Any questions on that? Don't see. Thank you very much for that update. And the third and final is an information report on the budget process. I understand it's there just for your information. Are there any comments on it? I just would express for myself my own satisfaction that we're going to see an enhanced public engagement process with the budget this year. I think that's really positive, and this survey that's coming out, I think, is a great step in that direction. So appreciate the administration's efforts on that front. So with that, I guess we'll do announcements by members, and the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just a reminder to staff and council and everybody that's here, our next meeting will be held on Monday, November 11th, which is Remembrance Day. So if you have an opportunity to get down to your local cenotaph and take part in the ceremony, please do so.
Thank you. The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Will there be are you putting up a, you are doing that. I wanted to make comment on this, but maybe would you like to show it before I make my comment?
Facility here in the town of Soggy. We're excited for Soggy Shores. Small communities back across Canada.
Anyways, thank you, Linda, clerk, for putting that on this evening. I think it was important to do that, and because I certainly want to say something about the event, and I know there's other people around the table who want to say a whole lot more than I do that I'll be saying. But I just wanted to say that in my 40 plus years in government, I don't remember an event quite like this that rallied the community together like this event did. And I just wanted to just a shout out to members of our community, Mr. Mayor, for coming together the way they did, and not just Saugeen Shores, but Graham Bruce across the province and across Canada. And it's really a fascinating event, and I'm glad you put it up this evening, because I think it's a good opportunity for us to say, thank you to the community for rallying together. What a great event. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Schreider.
Thank you. I definitely echo that. I think that the Kraft Heinz project play the last couple of months, the last couple of weeks, has been probably one of the best things that I've been involved in, definitely since being a councillor, but even as a municipal staff employee. So thank you. There's a lot of thank yous to have. So Roland's Independent, Tim Hortons, all our local businesses that displayed our outdoor signs, our flyers, and our displays, our surrounding communities, Grey Bruce and Huron communities, the Own Sound Attack, the school board, Bruce Power, Saugeen Valley Conservation, to our town staff, for sure, Neil Minaj, Brian Mays, our Saugeen Shores ball groups, not only our local groups, but we had competitors or visitor teams also that came out and supported it, the Bruce County Museum, Kraft Heinz, for sure, and TSN, our wonderful local media outlets, whether you're in print, radio, or web-based. The coverage of the event and leading up to it was just phenomenal, so we can't say thank you enough. And definitely congratulations to the other communities who we were in competition with, Salmon Arm, Lanigan, and Napeen. And the last two thank yous are definitely for the Kool-Aid room upstairs at the Plex. We ran it for 48 hours straight. It was awesome to be there. It was absolutely fantastic. There was people there at 3 in the morning, there was people there at 6 in the morning, and all the way through. It was packed. It was great, and especially the residents of Saugeen Shores, because as it's been mentioned, you guys got behind it. We know it's a viable project, but to hear it and to feel that just means so much more. So thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Thank you. And as much as I would love to move off of the theme of baseball, I do have something slightly different. I would like to offer congratulations to 2 residents of Saugeen Shores who were recently invited to the Training, Development, and Selection Camp for the men's national softball team. So congratulations to Caleb Kishig and Blake Underwood. So if we can produce world-class athletes with the type of facilities that we have now, only imagine what we will do when we have Lamont Sports Park.
Councillor Rich.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just back to Craft Project Play, it was amazing to be at the museum and to see that our community pull together and see it as a success in the end. I think that was a great feeling and a great message to all the children and people of this community that if you put in the effort and work hard towards something, you can make it happen.
Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am going to have, much as I was thrilled with the Kraft Heinz Project Play results. I wanted to speak a little bit about the Southampton Community Band, which is a volunteer band led by John Wills, who is a very experienced conductor. I went to a concert that they had yesterday afternoon at the Port Elgin United Church, which was tremendous. And I just wanted to thank the members of that band, as well as John, because these are, they're all the way from high school students to grandparents and members of the same community, of the same family in the band. It's really a wonderful group of people who give their own time to provide such great music, and it's important for us to have that in our community. They are going to be performing at the Remembrance Day ceremony on November 11th in Southampton, as they've done the last couple of years, even if it's snowing and freezing. And then they'll be giving a Christmas concert with the Chantry Singers, two actually this year, one on December 8th, which is a Sunday in the afternoon, and then the same concert again the next night on December 9th at 7 p.m., both at the Port Elgin United Church.
Councillor Carr. Councillor Mayette.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just quickly, there were two events that happened on this past Saturday night. I was attending one of them with the mayor and the deputy mayor, which was the fundraiser for the Outdoor Education Center, which was a very successful event. And in conjunction with that, at the same time, Southampton Rotary ran a fundraising event for the Huron Shores Hospice, and I have a report from them that they raised an amazing $70,000 in one evening for the hospice. So that money was greatly received by Carol Renchek, and I'm sure the hospice will be much better for it. Thanks.
Thank you. I last Thursday attended the Wounded Warriors Gala at the Davidson Center in Kincardine, and had the pleasure of hearing General David Fraser speak there that evening, as well as to witness Bruce Power having tipped over to $1 million in donations to Wounded Warriors over their time of partnership with that organization. And so that was exciting to see. And the one thing that General Fraser spoke about was the value in his career, and he was a general in Afghanistan, of teamwork and the importance of having a good team that you can rely on. And I just wanted to say, with regard to the Project Play comment, that this team, this council, council initiated that project. And, in my time on council, I've never seen a council in an extracurricular way get together and make something like that happen in the community for the betterment of the community, not around this table, but just on their own. And so I'm very proud of this council and the work that all of you are doing and have done. And you've certainly made me very proud to be mayor and to get to work with all of you. Apart from that, with regard to Project Play, I already spoke on the screen, and I'll let those words stand. So that brings us to the end of Committee of the Whole. Get a motion to adjourn, moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Schreider. All in favor, we'll reconvene at 9 p.m.